Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast presented by Planet of One. This podcast is designed to inspire change in people to become the best versions of themselves and live their best lives. We share stories of struggle and success to encourage and empower listeners to be bold, take action, and be the change we desire to see in this world. We are all part of this planet. We are all a planet of one. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Attitude of Altitude. I am delighted to have with us today Dr. Letitia Wright. And let me just read off some of the wonderful accomplishments that this person is accomplished so far in her life. Number one is she is the executive producer and host of her own show, Wright Place TV. This is her 18th season of doing this. She is the 2019 GRM Awards West Coast Media Mogul winner. She is a definite advocate for others and a change agent. She is a crowdfunding strategist and specialist. She teaches entrepreneurship classes to young kids, especially through the program Stand Up for Kids. And her latest project is a project for homelessness that she's just beginning to launch with another great friend of ours, Doria Cordova. So please help me welcome Letitia. Hi, Letitia.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is so exciting and fun.
I'm so glad to have you with us. Would you just kind of take us through the journey of where you started your journey as a doctor, how you became a doctor, and then the transition to all the things and wonderful things that you're accomplishing today? Since so many people are struggling, it's always wonderful to see someone that knows how to change as the times change. So take us through a little bit of your history.
So I have always wanted to be a doctor since I was 3 years old. When I was 3, if you asked me what were you going to be, I was saying, I want to be a doctor.
Wow.
So I got, married, started my family, and I actually went back to school to become a physician. And what I didn't know was the business side. You come out of school and they teach you how to be a great doctor. But my colleagues in my classes, they had connections in their communities with other doctors who were helping them start offices. So as soon as they graduated, they were walking into offices with full loads of patients. And I didn't have those kind of connections, and I didn't even know how that was even happening. So when I graduated, I struggled and I looked for a job. I had to look really hard to get hired. I finally got hired, but in the office that I got hired in, that doctor was having personal problems with his wife. And she also had an office within his office. And it was a really awful, awful experience. I don't know if you've ever had to work with a couple that was not getting along well, but it is not pleasant. And I came home on my birthday crying because it was just so stressful and so crazy and, misplaced anger and all this stuff. And I decided I was going to try to get out on my own. So I didn't have a lot of capital for it, but I went ahead and took some of the patients, started an office, but I struggled and I struggled and struggled and struggled. And finally, I reached out to, at that time, what was called practice management companies. And there weren't any books. There was no Shark Tank. There was no small business television. There was none of that going on. And so these companies would come into your practice, help you get your stuff together so that you would be making money and be profitable. So I put in an application, sent it in, and I got a call from them one morning and I got very excited. So I got my pen, got a piece of paper, and I was ready to, take down the information because I thought they were going to tell me what days this expert was going to come in and help me and sort of tell me what the next steps were. And the woman said, yeah, we got your application and we just wanted to let you know you don't make enough money to be one of our clients. And I was stunned and devastated, and I hung up the phone and I just really didn't know what I was going to do to turn things around because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know about marketing. You come out of school, you're a doctor. You don't know about marketing. You don't know about running an office. I didn't know like arrangements with lawyers would mean that I would not get paid for something for years and years. Like I didn't know how any of this worked. And I got a chance to be on a local cable television show. So I dressed up, got my hair done, and I went to this little local show and I did the show and it was really great, very impressive. It didn't bring on a lot of new clients, but patients were impressed. I was even impressed. I was like, man, what was going on? My makeup was good. My hair was good. My clothes looked good. I was like answering those questions. I was just, and so I went back to the studio and I said, well, how did this person get a show? Because the host wasn't that great, but I was like, how does this work? And so they informed me at that time that there was a contract that they had to give people in the community a chance to have their voice heard on television. And they had a program where you could start your show and you could be on TV. And so I got the idea that I would go in and start a show called The Healthier You and talk about health. That would get more people to know who I am, and it would bring in patients. So I did the show and I invited my other doctor friends on. It was really hard to get them on because that's not what they want to do. They just want to be patients, take care of patients, not be patients, but take care of patients. And I did the show, had some great shows, but, had exhausted my pool of guests. So I took a year off, and at that time, what I did was I directed other people's shows. I did sound, I did furniture, I did whatever. I volunteered on other people's shows. It would be so funny. Sometimes I would be behind camera. And one time, this one show was very popular at the time. The guest was an older lady, and she looked up from what she was doing to talk to the camera, but she saw I was behind the camera. And in the middle of her, hi, we'll be back in just a moment. She goes, hey, that's Dr. behind the camera. And I'm like, they were like, you might want to, we're going to have to cut your volunteering time down because people start talking to you instead of doing their show. But I took that time out to form the show, The Wright Place, which is my current show. And what I had decided to do was I interviewed business people so I could learn about the business side. And so the show grew, popularity grew. I had people like Mark Victor Hansen and Stedman Graham and, all these big name people were coming on the show. The show was taking me around the world. The show was growing. Sponsorship was growing. I got clothing sponsors. I got food sponsors. I got product sponsors. I got product deals. Like it just grew. And so I decided to actually close my practice and just focus on TV because that's actually where the money was coming from. My practice was still sort of not that great, but I was applying what I learned to business to the show and making the show grow. So that's been since the year 2000, and I've been growing that show and growing that show, and it's just been an amazing, amazing ride. And then about 2 years ago, I was getting bored with the show because I was starting to get these kinds of guests that were instead of educating the audience on how success came about for them, they were getting on the show and they were saying, I'd say, well, tell us how you grew. And they would say, well, I just sat back and I just imagined it. And then 10,000 new clients came in, and they would not really own up or acknowledge to the actual work. I do believe in visualization. I do believe that is important, but there's work that goes with it. You don't just sit on the couch. You visualize, and then you get up and you do some work. They would not share the part of the work that they were doing because that's helpful for people too. And I just didn't want to do the show anymore. I was like, I cannot listen to not another person tell me how they accidentally became a millionaire and they woke up one day and it was just, $50 million in their bank. And they went from 0 to 6 figures in 30 days. And they were sleeping in their car, and 30 days later, they had a mansion. And I just, was just tired of it, There are people renting, because you have Airbnb, you can rent anything. So there are people renting these mansions, renting Ferraris, and taking video in front of them and saying, yeah, you can do this too, when that's not their reality. And most wealthy people who are, this is a nugget for people too. Most people who are building wealth, they're investing their wealth. They're not that interested in showing it off to you. They're not that vested in it, especially if they came from nothing. When they've grown up very humbly and now they have everything they want, they're still not out there going, this is my house, this is, and it was just funny to me. But that's the type of people I was getting, and it was not fulfilling. So I took some time out and just kind of thought about what I wanted to do. And what I really wanted to do, I've grown and changed and learned a lot over time, is that I really decided I wanted my own channel. I had a station that said, we want you on. And then they were purchased by a Christian station that said, we don't want you on. So I said, I can't keep looking for a home. And I definitely can't keep putting out content that isn't satisfactory. So I formed the Wright Place Television channel, which is Diverse Business Television. And so we soft launched earlier this year. And so that channel is up and running on Roku. I'm very happy and excited about that, really, going for it. And, that's where I want to go, because now I have an opportunity to really it's a different animal. So, but it's 3 years for the Wright Place TV show to get into the black. So I can give myself at least 3 to 5 years to make my channel get into the black and start making money and start serving, a larger number of people. So that's kind of my television journey. And what I was doing on that end. And so that's how I went from seeing patients to being on television.
So truly what brought you from the doctor position to actually growing this channel is the need within you to even learn more about the business side, because you were struggling with your practice, which is very normal to a lot of people that get an education in one field and then they don't get the business side of things and they're expected to go out there and just run with it and succeed. But what you did differently is you actually took the time and the energy and began to put on your own show and learn from the expertise of others.
That is it. And so that really, and just to feel the need, I don't want other people to struggle like I struggled. I want the information available. I want people to know how to do things so they can serve the community that they want to serve. They can serve the kind of clients and patients that they want to serve, not spend all the time struggling. It's exhausting. To struggle will burn the desire to do that. It'll burn it out of you. Struggling so hard to keep my practice open sort of burned the desire to see patients out of me. When I told my family I'm going to close the office and I'm going to do this TV show, there was silence. My family is very, very supportive. They're never the people that say, you can't do it, you don't know how to do it, you can't do it. That's not how my family works at all. But they were quiet. They were not sure. I don't know if they weren't sure I was having a breakdown, or I don't know if they were just like quiet. But it definitely turned out to be the right decision. And I even created a show called the Mother's Day Show, which was like Oprah's favorite things show. So we would come and it was called the Mother's Day Tea. We'd come and have tea and then we record things, and then I'd start giving away all this stuff. And, we did that for quite a few years. And the year, 1 year, about the second or third year in, we had so many products. We had like 3 gift bags. Like you went home with 3 big old gift bags, those giant bags of stuff. And my mother was walking to her car with her stuff and she said, Oprah don't have nothing on my daughter. I just knew. I was like, okay, I really did something. But it's just a lot of fun to do the show when you really can bring some information and some great guests who are really, I know inside, because I know my target audience, like I know who I'm talking to. So when I have somebody on that I know is really helping them and really talking to them and motivating them and giving them actual information, not just spiritual inspiration. Like you do need to be inspired, but you do need action steps, and not everybody knows the action steps. And I think it's a disservice to just get into the space where you're talking about how you're visualizing and you're spiritual and you heard this voice and da 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 da. And but you give zero information on stuff like, but you also have a husband who can fund you for $50,000. Like that makes a whole big, they leave out chunks like that. They leave chunks like, I started this business from scratch after I sold, like literally there was an entrepreneur, she was talking about how she started her business from scratch. She had literally just sold the previous business for $50 million. So yeah, you started it from scratch, but did you? You know what I mean? That's a whole different ballgame from someone like one of my kids in the Stand Up for Kids program that was couch surfing. He wanted to start a makeup line, and I was able to help him get it started with his lipsticks. His product, you can see it on Instagram today. It's called Blood Kiss. And I don't, they create whatever product they want. I help them create it. I don't tell them buy this or do this. I don't curb their creativity or what their niche is. But he made a very great product, and we got that out there and got him started. And so, that's somebody who started from nothing. He literally was couch surfing, meaning he would say, "Hey, Rima, can I stay at your house for a couple of days? I'll just sleep on the couch." And then when you get tired of him, say, "Hey, Dr. Wright, can I sleep in?" Like he'd just move. And that's what a lot of homeless children do. And we'll get into homelessness too, but that's what I'm talking about. So it's very satisfying for me when I know my guests are just really helping someone.
What are some other nuggets that you have picked up through doing the show that are so valuable to someone that's starting out or someone that is struggling right now? What are some of the nuggets you picked up?
I would say, because my show was definitely born out of struggle and being on the struggle bus. And if you are struggling, to be very, self-aware, just take some time to be honest with yourself. If the struggle has actually burned the joy of what you're doing out of it, you need to stop and you need to do something else. You may refresh yourself and you may be able to come back to it, but you may be time for you to move on. And sometimes we're struggling because we can't let go. We've thought, I put so much time and energy. I put my whole education into becoming a doctor. I've been telling people I'm going to be a doctor since I was 3 years old. So if I had not given up that opportunity, I would have missed out on a whole world of things that I enjoy today. So I would just say, if you're struggling, as painful as it is, take time to really be honest with yourself and say, is the joy burnt out? Am I spending so much time on the struggle and just trying to make it survive that it's just not fun and desirable anymore? And be willing to put it down and open yourself up to the other possibilities, because you definitely have something to give. You definitely have something to share. You've learned something even in this struggle, but you can't give that when you're still caught up in it. So that's one of the things that I have learned. The other thing that I have learned is that while there's lots of information out there now, there's information everywhere. Everybody's telling you how you can take your stuff to the next level, and I can help you this, and I can help you that. It is very wise to be discerning. When people are telling me, I have people telling me, I can help you take your television show to the next level. And I say, great. How many shows have you done? Well, I haven't done any, but I can tell you how to. No, honey, you can't. I need somebody in television to tell me how to move forward in television. So you can get different coaches for different spaces. Maybe someone is coaching you on business organization and someone else is coaching you on marketing, but they've still got to be ahead of you. They can't be behind you, not having done as much as you and giving you instruction on what to do. It doesn't really work like that. And a lot of people are looking to quote gurus that they make their money teaching you how to do X, not doing X. So they teach you how to podcast, but they don't make any money podcasting. They teach you how to build a website, but they don't make any money building websites. Like, you have to be really discerning. There's this thing out here called 10,000 hours and I'm an expert. So you figure they read and they get some books and they put 10,000 hours into it, and then boom, they're an expert like everybody else. But you really want to take coaching and instruction from people who make money doing what you're doing, not make money teaching you how to do what you're doing. So if you have a coach who also has a coach and coaches people, they can probably do a great job. But if your coach only shows you how to start up a business, that's all they do, they don't coach anybody, there's going to be something missing in what you have. So it's just being very discerning about what cups you drink from and what cups you pass and say no thank you, and being true to yourself when something doesn't feel right or you try something and it doesn't work, to be able to move on and go to something that does.
Beautifully said. And so much of what you just said comes from your own wisdom of being able to say to yourself, I'm not satisfied with the career I chose, even though I've been saying it for years and years. You have the guts and the courage to look within to go, this isn't working for me. I need to look for something else and continue moving towards the area that brings me joy. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because of outside influences. You were lucky in some sense that your family was supportive by being nonverbal about it and allowed you to move forward. What took you, Letitia, from the television show to actually beginning to teach and mentor young kids? What was the draw to that?
Well, the draw to that was really just there was a woman, Carlia Oldfather, who was running a program, and she called me out of the blue. We were friends before this, we didn't know each other before this, and asked me to come and speak to her class. And there were young entrepreneurs. Would you come speak to them? And I thought, sure. So in my mind, it's just a speaking gig. That's what I'm going down for. I'm going to Orange County. I'm going to speak to these kids. And it's going to be fun. Talk to entrepreneurs all the time. Do it all the time. It's no big deal. And I got down there and I had agreed to do 3 or 4 classes and spoke to the kids. And I really just fell in love. These kids just enchanted me. And it just, to watch them soak up the information and put it to use, and they were creating their businesses out of their own ideas. And the contract that Carlia had, the idea that she had was that instead of asking one person to teach all these 4 months of classes, she would invite different business people in the area to teach on their expertise, and it would rotate so nobody would be burnt out. However, the contract in there says that whatever you teach becomes the property of this organization that sold her this class. And so many entrepreneurs were like, when they read the fine print, they were like, no, I'm not going to do this. And so I teach crowdfunding. I teach crowdfunding and crowdfunding techniques all over the world. I'm one of the top 100 crowdfunding experts in the nation, and that crowdfunding wasn't included in this curriculum. So I just made a mental note that I was not going to include that because I was not about to turn over my intellectual property to somebody else and just say, hey, this is it. But as people would decide they wouldn't come and teach, I said, okay, I can teach that, no problem. And I taught it. So I kept filling in all these spaces. And next thing I know, it was the end of the year and I was still there. And so what she had lined up was entrepreneurs in the community that were donated their own money. And these kids did presentations and won $8,000 for their businesses. And one of the things that I taught them, and I just taught it to them in passing. I think I only said it one time in the 8 weeks. But I told the kids the great thing about being a young entrepreneur is that you're young and they won't see you coming. And when one of the girls, the girl that won the number 2 place prize, I didn't see their presentations until they actually did it, even though I was kind of coaching them. The other teacher was really helping them with the hands-on. She had in her SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, one of her strengths she put on there was, and one of my strengths is I'm young and they won't see me coming. I was like, oh my God. Tears came to my eyes when I saw it up on the big screen, and I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. So I just really fell in love with that. So we've been doing that for the last few years, and different classes because it's always different kids. But it's just been an amazing, amazing ride. So what it is that these kids are homeless or at risk for homelessness. And what we do is we always tell these kids, you need an education and you need job skills. So some of the kids will go to college to get an education and be okay. But some of the kids need to get job skills so they can get a job and they can be okay. But you have this third set of kid that goes unrecognized. And these children are born and bred entrepreneurs. Born and bred entrepreneurs have a very hard time holding down a job. They move from job to job to job to job because they're entrepreneurs, not because they're dumb and they can't follow a job. And they're very restless in high school and college, and they very rarely finish college because, again, they've got this thing in them that needs to come out, and college is just moving too slow and is not giving them the resources. And so they're not the best in college either. But they can get out in the world, and with their entrepreneurial skills and understanding what their entrepreneurial skills are, they can begin to make money, bring themselves out of poverty. One of the classes, I had a young lady who got in trouble because she bought cookies to school. She baked cookies and she was selling them. And the principal immediately accused her of selling edibles. I was like, she's 13. Like, what are you talking about? And so I was like, oh, she needs to be in my class, And so one of the schools said, well, who should we send? I said, send the kids that are gambling, send the kids that are getting in trouble for selling chips, selling candy at school. One little girl, I spoke on her behalf. She wasn't even in my program. This is another school in another state. But her parents actually called and asked me to speak on her behalf because she was about to get suspended because she was in the bathroom doing something called laying edges, which means that you can buy at the beauty store, you can buy these creams and you put them right here. And the young girls like for this part to be very, very smooth. Well, some people have a natural hair that does that and some people do not. And so she would buy the little edge cream and she had a little toothbrush, and for like $1, the other little girl would come in there and say, well, lay my edges, and she would do the little design, and she was making money. Well, they thought she was in the girls' bathroom selling drugs. And so this was going to be something that was going to be literally on her record because kids cannot sell stuff at school. That is definitely against the rules. But what I was kind of doing was like, hey, if a kid gets caught doing that, that just means they need to be in my class. They're an entrepreneur. And so, I had a girl that came and brought, she was not in my class yet. And she brought chocolate flowers for Valentine's Day to school. And she made $700. And this girl is 14. What she told me, but listen to what she told me. What she told me was, Dr. Wright, I made enough money to pay rent for my family. This little girl was making sure her family doesn't get kicked out of their tiny apartment. So learning entrepreneurship for kids that are at risk for homelessness, I'm teaching the same programs that these other kids, their parents are paying $5,000 for them to go to entrepreneur camp. Matter of fact, I get asked to judge these expensive entrepreneur camps because they know I run a program. So imagine I'm on one side of Orange County, California, teaching a program to homeless kids. And then I go to the other side of Orange County and I'm judging programs where all of these kids paid $5,000 to be in the program.
I think that's incredible, honestly, just to pay attention to the fact that these kids have a skill and entrepreneurship in them that our current system just doesn't recognize, versus us really moving them forward in who they are and seeing them as individuals. I personally had an experience with one of my nephews who is brilliant, but was having a really hard time in high school because They're just pushing information into them. It's like, I'm way beyond it. And he's got a lot of entrepreneur skills. And I also have the ability, just like you, to go through a program in San Diego and teach an entrepreneurship program. It wasn't to homeless kids, but it was to high school seniors. And just seeing them light up with the bits and pieces that are missed, in allowing them to understand that they have control of where they get to go in life. They have the choices to really implement and put into practice the things that can move them forward. So I love the fact that you're judging a program on the affluent side, and you also get to see the other side. So you're bringing together some things that no one else gets to see, and gets to understand that a kid is a kid no matter where you put them. And if you give them the opportunity and you really sit there and inspire them and give them the skills, they'll get to places that we will never know.
It's just
Right?
amazing. And it's the most satisfying work I've done in years. I can't even begin to explain how satisfying that is for me. And I just really, really love it. And it's just an amazing, amazing time, amazing opportunity. I really, really love it. There's a challenge to bring it virtually, so that's what I'm working on now. And just figuring how I want to set this up and how I want to do this, and move this forward. But that's the main thing, is that I'm trying to look out for that entrepreneur kid. And in poorer or lower class communities, that entrepreneur spirit can be corrupted for crime. So when you have a child who is involved in child prostitution or, all of that, that's an entrepreneur. If you can sell your body, you can sell products. They just need to learn how to take that in a different direction. You're selling drugs, you can sell products, your own products, and be safe and clean. And so it's just really important. I connect with the kids. I say, hey, what happened at school today? They always tell me exactly what happened at school. And one day it was really interesting because none of the boys were in class that day. For some reason, only my girls, all of the boys were absent. And I said, hey, what happened in school today? And so one young lady said, well, a girl got exposed. And I said, exposed? What does that mean? Somebody told on her, she cheated, like on a test, like what are we talking about? And the young lady proceeded. Now, all the kids knew this, the other girls were just like, I'm just going to look at the computer and do what I'm doing while this girl tells me what happened. And she says, well, there was a video going around the school of a girl who was giving sexual favors to the boys at school. And the boys were videotaping it. And then they passed it around. Of course, it got to an adult who finally saw it. She got called in. Everybody got called in. It was a big mess. So I said, okay, shut the computers down. We're gonna have a talk. And so I sat down with the girls and I said, look, we're not gonna judge this girl because I want you guys to understand. You have no idea. The boys were giving her money. I said, you have no idea what was going on in her life that she needed to get that money, and that's how she decided to do it. So we're not going to judge her, okay? Because we don't know the whole story. And I am teaching you guys to be entrepreneurs because I never want you to have to do anything like this to get money. I need for you to understand that there's other opportunities. I wish I was able to talk to her before she did this, because I could have helped her do something where she could get the money she needed for whatever she needed it for, but she could get it in a way that she did not have to debase herself. She did not have to get in trouble. She did not have to do this. And their eyes were like this big. So I said, we're just going to talk real. And, I'd say it this way. I say, hey, you don't have to show your chicken McNuggets. You don't have to let anybody touch your chicken McNuggets. You just have to do things that are, about business. And so we just had a real talk. And I was just really able to talk with the girls and say, this is exactly why I do this. So when you hear other people talking about it in school, just remember, we don't know her story. And remember that your skills in entrepreneurship can keep you out of that kind of thing. And we're gonna hope the best for her. We're gonna hope that things work out, but that's just a horrible situation, and this is why I'm here.
So you taught them so much more through that one episode about life skills, non-judgment skills, and really just showing up as a human being for another and learning to take care of yourself through non-judgmental ways. So you taught them so much more.
Yeah, there's a real need out there for this among the homelessness at risk population. And it's so fun when we have graduations. I give kids certificates. I give them watches. We give them watches because we tell them when they are trying to take care of business, they need to wear a watch. So we give them watches. And their parents, I think, even their parents sign the paper for them to be in class, I think their parents have no idea what they're doing. Because their parents are sitting in the audience going, like, these kids are giving presentations and pitches for their business. That's the graduation. And their parents are like they've never seen any of this before. And you got this kid, just knocking it out of the park. And so it's just, again, very satisfying, beautiful time.
So it's an eye-opener even for the parents themselves, because none of us know what their life is like and what opportunities they've had or didn't have. Not like someone like you walking into a class and really being very caring to the individuals that are sitting in that classroom to go, let me teach you some life skills. Yes, through entrepreneurship, but these are life skills. So you can graduate and get out of here and actually build a life for yourself.
Absolutely. And it just takes a minute to check in and say, hey, what went on in school? And they tell me all the crazy stuff. One day it was, somebody punched a teacher. And I was like, what? And they go, look, because they have everything on their phone. So they're like, look, and they show me the picture. Literally, you can see the hand connecting to the... I just said, wow. I said, that's wild. But I told them, I said, but I'm just telling you guys, if any of you punch me, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to reach you down to the bricks. So just don't even think about it. They just all laughed, but it was just like, wow.
That's because you're coming at them from a level of, I understand you. Not judgmental, but I'm also here in a place of authority to get you forward. Is that what you sense out of them?
So, I always try to laugh and have a sense of fun. I never want things to get, so serious. I definitely run a queendom. It's so funny. I go, hey, we're going to do this. And I say, hey, this is a queendom, not a democracy. Just do it. And so one little boy was like, actually, the parliament gives the queen instructions. I said, hey, we don't have no parliament. Just the queen. So just do what I tell you to do. He just laughed. He said, you're right. So it's just really just mutual respect. I have a lot of respect for them. One class, oh gosh, these kids were so smart. I literally had to run to keep 10 steps ahead of them. So I gave them a template, and we're all working on Google. So they have the template. They're all sharing the same document. So once one person changes the document, the whole class can see the change. I don't know where it started, but some kid put a mustard guy with no shirt. Then the rest of the kids are like, oh, we're going to add to it. And before you know it, there were pictures of, they weren't totally indecent. So there was no naked bits, but there was just stuff that, 13-year-olds, you can't get away with that. So I finally figured out what was going on because the whole class is looking at the computers and they're laughing and they're cracking up. And I finally get to see it. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, everybody shut this down. So I just, again, had a serious talk with them and said, look, you guys can't do this. I said, number one, I said, the principal and Carlia, who's my teaching partner, she wasn't there that day. I said, they can see what you guys put on here. I said, do you want the principal to think this is what I'm teaching you guys? Like, this is not what we're doing. And so I just had a real serious talk with them. And I said, so, please don't do this. Please let's focus on what we're focusing on. And I said, because you're going to get me in trouble. You're going to get me kicked out. Not only will I get kicked out of this class, but I won't be able to go back to any school because all the other schools will have been told that I am letting you guys do this kind of stuff. No school's going to let me come there. So we had a very somber time. I let the kids all go. And one kid stayed back. And he said, when all other kids were gone, he said, Dr. Wright, I'm the one that started it. I'm sorry. I said, now we know. I appreciate it. And I didn't say, who started this? Tell me. Like, I wasn't even demanding that. I was just trying to explain to them, hey, you're putting this program at risk. At any time that the principal wants to look in and see what we're doing, they can do that. And this is not what, they signed up to allow me to do. So just, these kids are just amazing kids. Diego is a good kid. He's a little old man. Like, when he's 50, like, he already looks and sounds like what he's gonna look and sound like when he's 50. You know what I mean? I'll be able to recognize him. Some kids are gonna grow and change and look completely different than when I saw them, but this kid is pretty much like there. And so I said, yeah, he's already a little old, responsible man, but he's gonna be great, just great. And the kids have such wonderful ideas. I let them choose their ideas. So we don't do things like lemonade stand where they just teach you how to do a lemonade stand and somebody gets to be the CEO and somebody gets to be that. It doesn't. I take their idea. So it can be anything they want. One young lady said she wanted to have a cat cafe. And so you could come and drink and read and pet a cat. And I said, what problem are you solving? She said, some people, their parents won't let them have a pet. They don't want them to have the responsibility. So if you can't have a pet, you can come here, relax, drink some coffee, and pet this pet.
I think it's a great idea, honestly, just hearing her. It's like, yes, there's a lot of people that actually enjoy that. You never know what works.
We had a very different learning style. The other thing that I bring to it, because as a physician, I could immediately pick up a different learning style. So for her reading comprehension isn't that great. She needed to hear me say it. So she sat in the front and she would say, tell me again what we're doing. Like, I would explain it, write it on the board, but she would say, tell me again what we're doing. So I would make sure that I would just sit in front of her face and tell her so she could hear it verbally, because she was an auditory learner. Stuff on the board, a piece of paper, none of that helped her. She needed to hear it. So if teachers are just giving out papers, those are the classes that she doesn't do well in. And one of the other things that we found as a byproduct, again, found all of the kids experienced a bump up in grades, because what we're doing helps math, reading comprehension, just a little bit of art in there, a little bit of music, and like all of that. So they all had a bump up in grades. So it's exciting. That's a little byproduct.
Now, tell me how you got into the crowdfunding portion of your own life. What was the draw to that?
Well, the draw to it was the last recession where entrepreneurs could not find money. Like, they couldn't find money. They couldn't get banks to lend them money. Like, it's a little different than what's happening this time around. And somebody showed me their crowdfunding campaign where they put together money because they were going to make a book. And I watched this whole process and I was like, bing, this is what entrepreneurs need. And I started trying to read up on it. There was not a lot of information, but I learned what I could learn. And then I did an experiment. I called 10 friends in business and I said, look, I'm going to do this thing called crowdfunding, Rima. Okay, I'm going to do crowdfunding. You know me, I'm not here to rip you off, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know what I'm doing yet. So are you willing to work with me? I'm going to raise $10,000 for your business. And that business friend would say, yeah. And then I did 10 projects like that. 4 of them crashed and burned. You can still see the smoke from here. And, but 6 of them were great. And being a physician, I take a lot of notes. And so I took notes on how it went about. And so I started teaching other entrepreneurs about it, and just like, this is how you can raise money, and this is how you can get the money, and this is how you can do this. And it just grew from there. I did my own project. I raised money for a book called The Crowdfunded Life. That was what I knew on crowdfunding back then. It's old, it's antiquated. No, it's not for sale. You can't get it. I know so much more now than I knew back then. But I'm happy to share that information. I teach it around the world. It's about funding, whether you want funding from pre-sales, powerful pre-sales, or you want funding from entrepreneur investors, or you want, super subscriptions. It's like what you can do if you can't go to the bank, what can you do to start your business? And crowdfunding has a bunch of different techniques. It is an umbrella word for business funding, alternative business funding. Crowdfunding is really alternative business funding. It's just under one word, but each type of crowdfunding has different rules. And the challenge is that people are trying to use wrong rules with the different type of crowdfunding. They don't really know what they're doing. And so they're going to use X rules. They're going to use baseball rules in a football game. They can't believe they got run over. It's like, yeah, because you weren't ready, didn't have the equipment, didn't know the rules. But I found that it's helped a lot of people. I've helped people raise millions of dollars individually. I was asked to come to President Obama's last economic summit. I didn't know this, but he had done an economic summit around the world every year since when he had become president. And the last one was at Stanford. And I got invited to that. And so, big hitters, heavy hitters, all these people from around the United States, around the world were there. And it was amazing. And when he came in to speak, it was like you were at a rock star concert. People were like screaming, and then people up in the rafters were like, "We love it!" And he's like, "I love you too," It's just like, it was like, oh, that amazing. So crowdfunding has been an incredible wild ride. It is very interesting. It is the basis by which all of the digital coins are released, Bitcoin included. And it's an amazing opportunity. Billions of dollars are raised. And a lot of smaller entrepreneurs are missing out on the opportunity because they're looking for traditional. So think of crowdfunding as alternative business funding. And then you have a better idea of how to use it. I love it. I love teaching people. I love taking people through the process. And that's what I do. When I'm coaching people on their business, we spend time coaching on the business startup, but we also talk about the funding.
Tell us the latest project you're working on for homelessness, as if you don't have enough on your plate.
Gosh, the latest project that I'm working on is called adoptahomeless.org, and I'm working on developing it. So I was sort of asked to head this up by Dame Doria Cordova, and I'm still formulating it in my mind. So number one, I want to put it out there that anybody who would like to join me on this venture quest, it is open. I will be forming some meetings pretty soon to just sit down and toss some ideas around and see where we're going to go for this. I don't quite have the full vision, so I'm very open to it. I do want it to include children, but child homelessness and adult homelessness looks very, very different. So again, we'll have to sort out, how we work that out. While homeless people can be visible, homeless children rarely are that visible. If you see a sign of a teenager with a sign saying, "I'm homeless, give me money," he's just hustling you. Don't give him money, because kids don't want to be seen. Because and parents definitely don't want their kids to be seen, because they'll be taken away and put into foster care. A lot of kids who are homeless have run away from abusive homes or abusive foster care homes, so they don't want to be seen because they don't want to be locked up and they don't want to be put back into another foster home. So you have to think about it in this way. How horrible must your home be if you choose the streets over staying in a bed in a house? Okay. Mm-hmm. How dangerous must it be for you in that house that you would choose to take your chances on the streets? So when you think about it like that, homeless children, they don't want to be seen. They're just not out there like that. People who are at risk of homelessness are people who are sleeping in their cars, people who are in motels with their kids. They're living in motels week to week. That is considered McKinney-Vento homelessness. People who have to double up. They're living with grandma. They're living with 4 or 5 families in the house. That is considered McKinney-Vento homelessness, because they really don't have their own space. They just are there. They're not sleeping on a rock on the street, but they're not in a fully, humanitized space. And so, so homeless children, the needs are a little bit different than homeless adults. but I still have a heart for both. So I want to figure out how we can do this. Homeless veterans is just a shame upon America. There's no way we should have homeless veterans. They've served their country, and whether mental illness, I mean, people try to say, well, a lot of these homeless people, they want to be out there on the streets. Let me just say, yes, there's that one tiny percentage person who does want to go live under the bridge, but the majority of them do not. The majority of them, if they are offered shelter and housing and an opportunity to get clean and get a job, they're going to take it. Yes, mental illness is a challenge, but we have ways to treat that. We have, ways to get around that. So I'm working on adoptahomeless.org and just figuring out where it's going to go. So anybody who would love to talk to me about that, love to be a part of it, Rima, I'd love your input. You and I have a very much simpatico kind of spirit, I think. And I would love to have a small team that was sharing with me their thoughts and helping me figure out how to implement this to serve as many homeless people as we can serve and create the funding around it so that we can actually, do it.
So, Letitia, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, you guys can reach me through rightplacetv.com, or you can simply call 909-235-9744, country code 01-909-235-9744. And I do want to put one more plug in for Stand Up for Kids. We're getting ready for a Christmas party in Orange County. And what we do is every kid has a $100 budget where we buy them what they put on their budget. Some kids will put a toy. Some kids will put that they need a coat. Some kids will put that they need shoes. Whatever they put on that budget, they research it, find how much it costs, put exactly what it is. We buy exactly what it is. So I would love for people to support Stand Up for Kids Orange County. My kids that are in the entrepreneur program get to participate in this. Not just the rest of the kids in the program, but even the entrepreneur kids get to do this. And so if you can give to standupforkids.org/Orange County and give for the Christmas program, we are now taking donations for that. And it would be so great. When you go to their page, you can give any amount, but the $100 is the budget amount. But if you give 25, we'll just put a bunch of $25 together and do it that way. So I just wanted to put it out there, standupforkids.org. They get kids off the street. We're feeding kids. Even in my entrepreneur program, we feed the kids second lunch. And second lunch is we feed them before we get started in class. I don't get there till 2:30, and almost all of the children will tell me they haven't eaten all day. How they're doing excellent work and they haven't had food till 2:30, I have no idea. But food insecurity is a big deal. We feed the kids and Stand Up for Kids. We're housing children. We're getting them off the street. It is not just a pamphlet or just a drop-in center where they can come. Orange County actually houses children. So if you have it in your heart for homeless children, again, standupforkids.org/Orange County is a program that I personally work with, and the Christmas party is coming up. So I'd love for you guys to help.
I'm going to second that motion for anybody that cares. Step up. Anything that you can provide some input on and really begin to put yourself out there, whether you're volunteering, whether you're giving funding, whether you're doing something, pick a project that you truly care about and put your effort towards it. And we can see this world begin to truly change from everything that we're doing. And yes, definitely, child, this is the time when we see a lot of the people that are suffering. And this is the best time for us to get involved. So if Stand Up for Kids is something that speaks to your heart, please reach out. Orange County, there's different branches everywhere, but do something. Let's not just sit back. Letitia didn't get to where she is by sitting back. She actually stepped up and started doing something, and look at the difference that she's making. Letitia, is there anything that you still like to share with the audience that I may not have asked you?
Oh, gosh, I think this is so thorough, and it's just so fun spending time with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Letitia. I so appreciate you. Guys, we happen to be speaking in November. This is the beginning of the holiday seasons, but you might be listening to this a year from now, 2 years from now. There's never a bad time for us to get involved and start doing something for our fellow human beings, for our fellow kids, and really making a difference. So remember, your attitude determines your altitude in life. And if you want things to begin to change, start checking your own attitude and see how life begins to alter for you. Thank you so much. We will see you on the next episode. Bye, guys.